One of the most crucial skills of exhibiting courage as a leader is being able to initiate difficult discussions with team members and to execute them successfully. Think back on the last week or month. Surely you can identify a situation where you had to have a conversation that you didn't necessarily want to have. Perhaps it made you anxious, uncomfortable to think about having to have that conversation. Chances are your anxiety about having that conversation made it seem much worse than it really was. The truth is, difficult conversations don't have to be difficult. You just have to know how to go about them the right way. In this exercise, we're going to practice having a difficult conversation with a coworker, a direct report, a friend, or family member by going through specific steps that you should use to ensure successes for both sides. First, before diving into any conversation, identify what is the topic of the conversation you'd like to have. What's the ideal and goal of this discussion? It's imperative to determine this before involving the other party. If you're not clear about your own goals, they certainly won't be clear on their involvement in the conversation or how to respond. Some examples might be to provide constructive feedback, to introduce an aggressive goal where you might receive pushback, or to come up with a resolution for a problem that the other person may not agree with. Once you've determined your ideal outcome, plan out the conversation in bullet points ahead of time. It doesn't have to be in an in-depth list. In fact, the more brief, the better. But having a list of bullet points to guide your discussion will help you stay on track with your goals for the conversation. Here are a few helpful tips for framing your conversation. Bullet point 1 should be why you're initiating this discussion. Address it immediately so both parties are on the same page. Bullet point number 2 should be what you hope to get out of the discussion, reiterating what you decided in the first step. Bullet point number 3 should be reiterating ownership of the issue. Remember, you are responsible. Taking responsibility is not about being at fault or blaming the other person. It's about owning up to the situation and recognizing that you are a part of the issue. Bullet point number 4 should be to understand. As challenging as it can be, the best approach in any difficult conversation is to listen with as much understanding, compassion, and empathy as possible. If we can understand where the other person is coming from, even if we don't agree, we have a good chance of being able to work things out. Give your colleague this time to say their piece. Bullet point number 5 should be to find common ground, hopefully in the form of a resolution. Stay direct yet open throughout your conversation. And once both parties have expressed themselves fully, steer the conversation back towards resolution. Answer the question, what now? And do it together. Once you've jotted down your bullet points, the next big step is to schedule the conversation on your calendar. Putting it in writing will keep you accountable to having this conversation. On the day of the conversation, be sure to clear your mind of anything else that's bothering you. The last thing you want to do is bring in outside frustrations and complicate the situation further. When speaking with your colleague, keep the conversation in neutral ground by using I statements. Using I statements allows us to speak from a place of truth, ideally without blame or judgment. For example, I feel like we could have handled situation X better. Sounds a lot better than you could have handled situation X better. Difficult conversations are not easy, but you don't have to dread them. By using the tools we've discussed in this lecture, you will find they get easier and easier the more you practice.